of the Atlas V with Maven. Looking
The
for
global
clues
space
about the
industry is
other
worth
support
over
is
320 billion USD, according to a Space Foundation report. Although the Indian government's Space Exploration Agency, ISRO, has had tremendous success in launching satellites using indigenously developed satellite launch vehicles, even a successful Mars orbiter mission, it has less than a 0.5% share of the global commercial space market. Clearly, there's a lot of room for growth and potential for private sector companies to stage a play in this space.
Hello and welcome to India's Game Changers. I'm Nirith Alva. In today's episode, I'm in Bengaluru, India's Silicon Valley, checking out a startup that has ambitious space exploration plans. In fact, it's racing quite literally to the moon. From the outside, there's hardly anything to indicate that there's anything about Bengaluru-based Axiom Research Labs Private Limited to suggest that it's a private company, India's only private company, committed to putting a spacecraft on the moon before the end of 2017.
Housed in this nondescript building is Team Indus, that has set its sights on winning the $20 million Google Luna X Prize, an unprecedented competition to challenge and inspire engineers, entrepreneurs and innovators from around the world to develop low-cost methods of robotic space exploration. In order to win the prize, Team Indus will need to successfully land a spacecraft on the moon that travels at least 500 meters and transmits high-definition video images back to Earth. The man behind Team Indus is Rahul Narayan, an alumnus of India's premier technology institute, the Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Delhi.
Rahul Narayan.
Hi, Nirith,
It's
how are
lovely
you?
to meet
Pleasure meeting
the
you.
fleet commander of Team Indus.
Thank you.
Some people would consider a crazy idea, a race to the moon.
Yeah, it is. It is crazy for the ambition that it started off with, especially given where we were starting. So the bunch of people who started this off did not really have a background in aerospace, but we said, let's look at it as a set of problems. As we met Dr. Kasturi Rangan, former chairman of ISRO, he gave us a very patient hearing.
You've managed to get so many different thought leaders to back you up, right? From Ratan Tata to Nandan Nilekani, so many others. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
I would say it was relatively easy to reach out to folks, and each one of them signed up for the impact rather than the one news coverage or one quote. And they support us with their time. Some of them have invested, some of them have made other connections.
Today, Team Indus is over 100 people strong. It's a real mix of youth and experience, with many retired ISRO scientists with loads of practical experience at one end and fresh engineering undergraduates at the other. The team's designations are all inspired by Star Wars.
Unlike many of the startups that I've visited, this is a place where there's a mix of age, youth, experience, and some of India's best scientists. Tell us a little bit about how this team came together.
There are very few of these global aerospace clusters. India has Bangalore, and in Bangalore you can find talent, you can find suppliers, you can find support companies, you can find the ecosystem, so to say, to be able to do a program or a project of this magnitude.
Mostly I worked with the younger people, even in ISRO, but here it is totally younger people. People like me and people who are below 25 years. That is the combination.
You are the fleet commander, and in addition to you, there are 8 Jedi Masters heading various roles and operations. Tell us a little bit about that classification.
For us, I think this was a great opportunity to say this is not science fiction, this is engineering reality, and why not wear your title on your sleeve? Other than the Jedi Masters, we have Jedi Commanders, we have Troopers, we have Skywalkers, we have a whole bunch of these titles that we use, and it just keeps things more interesting.
We built an amazing team here. We've managed to get under one roof some of the greatest minds, and we're going to be able to build the capability to build an aerospace company. So they're here, they're building alongside them, and they're training people, hands-on learning of how to build a moon mission.
Team Indus has raised a lot of money from over 75 of India's best-known angel investors, like iSpirit founder Sharad Sharma and Nandan Nilekani, one of the founders of India's best-known IT companies, Infosys.
And what I like about Team Indus is here's a bunch of young people doing what typically governments have done, like the US government or the Soviet government or the Chinese government. They've come so far, they have signed a contract with ISRO. And so I think the fact that these young people are so fired to do something so audacious is what attracted me to Team Indus.
In 2012, the mission was conceptualized. 2014 wins $1 million milestone prize. 2015 and 2016 attracted over 75 investors. Major investors Nandan Nilekani, Sachin and Binny Bansal. 2016 signed a launch contract with ISRO. 2017 projected launch from Sriharikota in India.
Research says it takes about $75 million to get something like this done, right? And the prize money is $30 million. So how does the maths?
It's not the prize money itself. As part of what we built, the capacity that we built, the capability that we built is fairly unique. It's something which has helped us propel from the drawing board to the first prototype to the second prototype, qualification model coming up, and then much more towards the end of this year.
It's a systems engineering kind of a challenge to be able to pick things up and work with an ecosystem and work with different players to achieve something that is not normally done. And then you also have to be innovative in your methodologies. If you say that I'm going to use a traditional methodology to do things, then the timeline is a variable. But here there is, you have to meet certain timelines and you have to be innovative on how to do things more efficiently.
Team Indus seems to be on the right track, as demonstrated by its being one of the only 3 teams in the competition to win a $1 million milestone prize for its lunar lander technology.
I understand that this is a model of the lunar lander.
That's correct.
And this one team in this, a $1 million prize from Google.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about it and how you guys felt?
Absolutely. So across the world, we were one of the 3 teams shortlisted to be able to demonstrate that we know how to make something launch and how to make something land. We had a jury, international jury, about 4 out of 9 judges came here to look at what we had done. But that was a great moment. That was huge validation for all the effort.
Okay, tell me just a little bit about this.
This is Ika, which is going to go onto the moon on our spacecraft, and the spacecraft is going to be in a rocket. The rocket is going to take us to low Earth orbit. The spacecraft is then going to go and land on the moon, and then Ika comes out.
Not too many days off. What are the different milestones you have to hit?
First launch opportunity is on 28th of December. It's a 20-minute window. There's a bunch of stuff happening in the background which needs to all come into place at the right time, including the whole integration part of it, all these components that have been procured internationally. They have to come in, they have to go through quality testing. The mission operations needs to undergo a lot of rehearsal.
Only time will tell if Team Indus's moon mission wins the Google Luna X Prize. The question is, what if it doesn't? Does Team Indus have a life beyond the race to the moon? And how will it transform itself into a major league commercial space company once the focus shifts from the moon mission to more mundane things like revenues and profits?
Everything at the moment is geared up towards the race and winning that race. What happens after December 2017?
As long as we can do this and do this well, great things will come out of it. So that's the holding line over there. Having said that, the knowledge that we've gained, the engineering discipline and the rigor and the process that has been put into place will hold this company in good stead. We've got some very bright people working with us, and we believe we can now take these skills and turn them around to create other aerospace products, services which can potentially service the global market.
We have positioned ourselves to be able to do interplanetary missions. We've positioned ourselves to be able to manufacture and manage satellites. I would even go ahead and say satellite constellations. So that's definitely a way moving forward for us.
Rahul Narayan, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure talking to you. Thanks a lot.
It is said you need a larger-than-life mission to fire up your team and create a unique brand. Well, Rahul and Team Indus certainly have a challenge that's both larger than life and extremely challenging. Whether they win the Google Lunar X Prize or not, you can be sure of one thing. They are certainly going to be game changers in the space industry. May the force be with them.
Coming up, meet Gaurav Deepak, founder and MD of Avendus Capital, that has raised over 10 billion USD for over 200 startups. And Chumbak, making Indian pop art cool with a whole range of funky products.
With over 10 billion US dollars raised for over 200 startups in just under a decade, Avendus Capital has played a critical role in building the startup ecosystem in India. We spoke to Gaurav Deepak, founder and managing director, to try and find out just what makes Avendus so successful.
There are, I think, two key parts which I think are DNA, and whether they are secret sauce or whether we have kind of got them together well. It's people and culture. And since we are not bankers traditionally, it was literally, I would say, from first principles, we felt what is it that our client, which is the entrepreneurial community, needs. And we built a culture around that. You go to a hospital to get well. What do you come to Avendus for? And who is a client? To us, a client, 80-85% of our clients are entrepreneurs in India and abroad. And our single most purpose is to help them create value. Be their partners and help them create value. Once you have that objective, I think everything else becomes very simple in our mind. There are 4 core value systems we have. One is accountability, excellence, knowledge, and teamwork. That's the secret sauce.
As someone who has vetted hundreds of startup plans, Gaurav is admirably placed to provide an overview of why the startup ecosystem in India has exploded.
On one hand, you have huge consumer demand. On the other hand, you have this crazy quality of talent who are willing, passionate, working 24/7, irrespective of age and stage of life. What changed was the reach. The whole telecom reach changed it, the cost of telecom changed it, the mobile phone accessibility and the smartphone accessibility changed it. On one hand, you have a huge consumer demand which is not being met by existing customer in physical infrastructure. On the other hand, you have phenomenal quality of talent joining this industry. Literally people from 20 years old to 40 years old, 50 years old. Capital is bound to flow, and that's what actually happened.
Even as he's excited about the opportunity Indian startups present, Gaurav is pragmatic about what it will take for India to create a startup that becomes a global giant.
Facebook is a product business. Google is a product business. They have the advantage of having a very large local market and a very large capital base and huge quality of talent which can move very fast. So you saw Amazon going out and Uber going out, etc. Indian, I think, entrepreneurs do not have that scale of capital. While what Amazon can raise as capital and what Flipkart can raise as capital, what an Uber can raise as capital, what an Ola can raise as capital, because the local market, right? I would say that I would be very comfortable with, over the next 2 to 3 years, we becoming very strong in India, large enough market to create enough value, and then go from there. Yes, there is a next series of companies coming out, made in India for the world, which is primarily driven by 2 things: our software expertise. We have a very strong expertise in software, and secondly, we have global talent coming back to India or working with talent in India to create global products.
Gaurav is extremely bullish about the Indian digital economy, its potential for growth, and emerging trends over the next decade.
100 million people who are really on the internet in a very good fashion, who are engaging with the ecosystem. There are 50 million, let's say, who are shopping very well. That number, if that 50 million number goes up to, let's say, 350 to 500 million number over the next 5 to 7 years, the game changes dramatically. So 2 things are going to happen: deeper penetration and more wallet share. More wallet share and more mind share of time. Because of, ease of use, relatively, sort of getting comfortable with the ecosystem and cheaper costs. Our view is the Indian digital economy is worth about circa, let's say, 50 billion. We think it should be in the region of 500 billion in 5 to 7 years, maybe earlier. India is a land of small scale entrepreneurs. The formal employment in India is far lower as a proportion of people who get employed and earn their daily living as compared to the informal workforce. Informal workforce, they're willing to work very hard. They don't have customer access. They don't have tools and technologies to kind of make it work. Right from a salon owner to a plumber to a small shopkeeper, etc. The whole internet or the whole digital ecosystem is enabling them through various tools and customer access. So to me, it is not so even about creating some new infrastructure, but enabling the whole ecosystem to produce more and more efficiently. And the market is moving from purely venture stage to whatever growth stage. One of the other ways to look at it, you are seeing now a lot of growth capital investors who are traditionally growth capital coming to the industry and wanting to invest because the risk of 0-1 has gone away. And clearly, when the industry changes so rapidly, there will be some losses. But you will see a much more stronger India on one single bet, that is digital.
As an extremely successful entrepreneur himself and someone who has met and helped hundreds of entrepreneurs, Gaurav has this advice for anyone who wants to build their own business.
I've never ever seen a business which has not gone through a tough time for whatever it is worth. So that commitment and I would say self-belief is very critical. And third is that the kind of team you build along with you, how you take your people along. I see a lot of people, sort of doing startups but also making angel investments. I would say that a lot of people, kind of have their hands in multiple things. I don't think it may work for a few, but I haven't seen that working in general. It needs a single-minded focus to create something what you're after.
Coming up, Indian pop art defines Chumbak, a cool new product line. Everyday objects designed with a modern, quirky Indian aesthetic. That's Chumbak. Founded by husband and wife team Vivek Prabhakar and Shubhra Chadha.
Chumbak is a youth-centric lifestyle brand that we started about 6 years ago, right here in Bangalore. And the dream has always been to get a great global, a design firm based out of India. So I think that's what Chumbak is and what we're doing.
Vivek began his career in marketing, and Shubhra worked with an NGO, and the couple actually sold their house to start this venture. At Chumbak, Vivek is in charge of marketing and sales, and Shubhra in charge of design, sourcing, and stores.
One of the things Vivek and I bonded on always was travel. And wherever we went, we figured we needed to bring back something that reminded us of that memory. So we brought back fridge magnets because it was one of the most affordable things to bring back. And I was one day sitting and admiring, why don't we have, fridge magnets that represent India? Then we realized we'd have to sell millions of them for it to make any sort of business sense. So we said, okay, let's add more things that fall in the souvenir category. And we've taken that philosophy and now we've grown it into a complete lifestyle brand. So from just being a travel and souvenir product range, today we have that entire, I would say, the trinity of, a lifestyle brand. So we've got home, we've got fashion accessories, and we've got apparel.
The Chumbak office represents the same sensibility that the Chumbak products have. It has fun written all over it.
We ourselves are people who love great design, right? And we said, while it's great to see it on a wall art or something, why can't we see it on everyday objects? So whether it's the coffee mug that she uses first thing in the morning, or the dress that she puts on, or the bed sheet that she takes and sleeps at night, everything has an element of design that she appreciates that makes her happy.
I might have traveled to a particular place, a couple of months before, and I remember seeing this piece of pottery that I really loved. I might come back and the next time I'm designing or illustrating something for a product, I might be thinking, what, I really love the color combination that I spotted there. How can I kind of, interpret it in a way that other people will also enjoy it and relate to it.
The Chumbak customer, she's obviously a woman, and she's either young or young at heart. She wants to express herself through the things that she is surrounded with. By adding Chumbak to her life, there is something to cheer, there's something that adds color and liveliness to her life.
I think what differentiates us from anybody else is I think the effort that we take in getting great design out there. So if you take even from our apparel to our phone cases or bags or even cushion covers and stuff like that. I think somewhere we've kind of figured that somewhere the consumer understands that Chumbak means good design, and they have a place where they can come in and pick up stuff that, you know, they can relate to.
The company has literally had overnight success. Set up in 2010, followed by stellar growth in 6 years, indicates that both the consumer and investor sentiment towards Chumbak is favorable. Chumbak has had 2 rounds of funding.
In 2012 is when we closed our first round of funding with a fund called Seed Fund. In 2014, when we got our second partner, which was Matrix, along, the main reason for that was obviously to look at scale. How would we take the product that we have, get in newer categories like, you know, home and apparel, and also look at, you know, large format stores which would help build brand.
E-commerce is feeling the squeeze all around, and Chumbak too has felt the effects of that. Most e-commerce players are now shying away from the retail store model.
The idea was always to give something different, an experience that is different from what people are used to. I knew that this was going to work when people walked into our stores, and there was immediate smile that came on their face, and the feet started tapping, and that's really the experience we want to give.
Offline accounts for 70% and online 30% of Chumbak sales.
A majority of our online business happens on our own website, and I think that shows the amount of loyalty that consumers have and the recognition that's there for the brand. They don't need to go to a marketplace to look for it, but they know where exactly at chumbak.com to come and buy.
Initially, Chumbak's products were only sold online, but based on customer feedback, the couple decided to open kiosks in major retail stores. Currently, Chumbak also has flagship stores in 6 major cities, including Bengaluru and Delhi, and over 35 pop-up stores in major malls across India.
For the next actually year or so, there's a lot more expansion happening in India itself. We're going to be opening stores all across the country. The next level of expansion, actually, we started some research on our international markets and seeing that where do we open our stores. And we'll go with a similar kind of hybrid model of stores plus online. And that we'll start rolling out sometime in 2018.
Chumbak literally means magnet. Time will tell how sticky Chumbak will be in the long run.